For it to, okay, it says we are live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stormy B Man coming to you from the Stormy B Man channel. And I have a special treat for you this evening. I have the former light heavyweight champion and cruiserweight champion of the world, Derrick Royalty Harmon. Derrick, would you like to say hello to everybody?
Hello, hello, Chicago.
All right. Derrick is a good friend of mine. We've known each other a number of years. I think I tried to count it up, Derrick. It's like maybe 23, 24 years, brother.
Yeah, back in the 90s, right?
Yeah, early to mid 90s.
Yeah,
Time
I think maybe early 90s, mid 90s before I turned pro.
Right. It was you were just about to turn pro when we met.
Okay, well, all right, well, that's 93 then, because I turned pro in 93.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to say congratulations to you, by the way, on your career. You were always a stand-up gentleman and you always represented your family and the city well. I just wanted to say that to you in front of the audience there.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So, Derrick, this is we're going to start this out like a little bit of Q&A, and then we'll just chop it up a little bit. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do know we have some information that we'd like to get out there, see what's going on with you. But start off, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
Well, originally from Evanston, which is north of Chicago. I met Brian when I was a doorman at Edgewater on Sheridan Road, where I lived. And I was an amateur then, and I was traveling back and forth to Fuller Park on 47 in Princeton. So that's where it all began, and started Golden Gloves there. Went from the Golden Gloves to Ernie Terrell. I had my first 5 or 6 professional fights with Ernie Terrell, and then, which gave me a boost, is Montel Griffin, who I fought later on down the road, asked me to come to camp in Vegas to help him get ready for the Great Nathan. So once I went to Vegas, I realized when it came to boxing, Vegas was the place to be.
All right, all right. Now, can you tell us like who were like the coaches and trainers down there with you in Vegas?
Well, in Vegas, we start with giving thanks to Henry Sims. Henry Sims started me off on a great track. I want to give him thanks. And then when I came here, I had a couple different trainers, but I ended up with Kenny Adams and a couple different guys. Kenny Adams was my main trainer, though. He trained the 1984 Olympic team.
Yeah, and you actually you come from a pretty solid family too, right? How did you get into boxing, Derrick?
Nah, I wouldn't say all that, but not that my family was dysfunctional or anything, but it wasn't that solid. But I got into boxing just to a buddy of mine out in Evanston named Ewing Jackson, who started picking me up, taking me to the gym. But before then, my dad was the all-service champ. So we had a heavy bag in our garage, and I started messing around with that about 12 or 13 years of age.
Okay, all right. And when you were at Fuller Park, could you give us a little bit of background on like some of the people that hung around there at the time? Were there any pros or anyone like that that you like to mention?
Yeah, you had Montel, who I think should bring me up to Vegas. You had Doc Nicholson. You had Leonard Townsend. You had Jeff Mason. You had names of guys, Von Bean. The list goes on. Just kind of hard for me to remember all of them. But yeah, it was quite a few guys that were pro down at Full Park. That were great contenders, great champions that came out of Full Park.
Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning the names. The reason that I asked that is because some of them have kind of even, there's a long list, but like even myself, I forget some of the names. And I found out when I had did a one-on-one with Eddie Davis that he and I have a connection through Didi because his dad brought him to the gym, and his dad had him working in connection with Didi, and so did my dad. See, my dad was my dad was a featherweight, and he boxed under Didi. Didi was his coach. And so it's like,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either until Eddie and I did our one-on-one, and we found out that we came, you know, Eddie is a few years older than I am, but Eddie became my mentor when I decided to get in there and start helping out and learning how to be a trainer. So it's like there's like a whole, you know, lineage there, a network connection, you know, through all of us some kind of way.
Right, right, right. No, that's good. That's really good.
So with
Yeah.
your amateur background, now that I don't know very much about. Could you share a little bit about your amateur background with us? What you may have experienced, or as far as any titles or any traveling regionals or anything like that?
Well, my amateur background wasn't that big. I probably had about 20 amateur fights, but Henry Sims, who trained me majority of the amateur career, was more of a professional style. So, you know, I went into the pros. I was like, okay, why waste time? I had about 25 amateur fights, and then I just decided to turn pro because I had more of a pro style, and I didn't really want to be messing around with the amateurs. It wasn't lucrative. It wasn't really nothing accomplished for me to accomplish at the time. So I went on and turned pro in '93.
All right, that's
But
what's up.
I did win I won the Golden Gloves and I won the CYO.
All right, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Now, as I had did a little bit of my looking into the background for your career, you fought some very interesting names. You've got some great names on your resume for your entire career. Both, I think you started out light heavy, right, and you finished up at cruiser.
Yeah, I started out light heavy 175, ended up at 200.
Okay, yeah, I've seen names on your record. You've got the Jorge Castros, David
Jorge
Telesco.
Castro, David Telesco, Glenn Cox Johnson, Montel Griffin, Tim Littles. Uh, the list goes on. Yes.
Yeah. Now you and Montel are pretty good buddies, right?
Oh yeah, Montel's a good friend, man. I give thanks to Montel, you know, for just bringing out the Vegas from Chicago, and that's where it all started. It gave me an opportunity to come out here and be in camp. And if that wouldn't have never happened, I probably would never even been living here to this day if I had come to camp with Montel. But I knew when I came down here, you know, this is probably more of the place to be as far as becoming a professional fighter was Vegas at that time.
Yeah, sometimes is it not correct that the guys can start out, you can be hometown and grown, but you never fully develop until you kind of like break away from the nest, right? And get some otherworldly experience. Would you agree with that? Kind of get
Right,
out.
because you know, once you experience other parts of the world and you start traveling, you look at life a little different. You see things that are happening, or you see more of life, what's going on, and it gives you a different vision and that you can do better and become better once you start traveling. Instead of sitting in the same location and seeing the same old thing over and over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting because I remember even one time you were inviting me to come out to Vegas, out there where you were training and everything, and I just kind of wasn't ready to be uprooted, and in a way, I
Right.
kind of missed out on that. But due to some family things, some things that happened with my mom, I'm kind of glad I did stay rooted.
Yeah,
But
sorry to hear that.
yeah, but I appreciate, hey man, I appreciate your friendship though. You've been a true stand-up person for all the years I've known you. I just wanted to say
You
that,
too, man. I appreciate it. Same here.
So with that, you know, you mentioned Glenn Johnson. Now, I know that you had a victory over Glenn Johnson,
I
and
beat Glenn Johnson here in Vegas.
yes, sir. And
And I beat yep. Huh?
can, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because Glenn kind of fought everybody, right? And he
Well, yeah,
even knocked out Roy Jones.
Glenn knocked out Roy after I believe I beat him. And after I fought Roy, Glenn knocked him out. So Glenn, I don't know, you know, sometimes it's all about timing, but I guess it was right time, you know, when he knocked out Roy. But yeah, Glenn was a tough fight here in Vegas. I don't I look at him afterwards and I'm like, okay, I fought this guy and for some reason he's knocking out all the he beat Tarver, knocked out Roy. So he beat a couple world champions and became world champion, knocked out a couple guys after I fought him, and it was very interesting to see after I beat him, and kind of figuring out why he rose up to the occasion or why he had the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, and that's one of the things I kind of wanted to lead into and get your opinion on, because we see a lot of fighters today. There's so many titles out there now, and that a lot of guys have titles, but in your era and even going back a little earlier, there were less titles, so that meant most of those guys would be contenders. Am I not right? And they would have to fight one another, but they're avoiding.
Right,
They're avoiding
right.
one another today. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think the titles are good for the fighters and one part, and then it's bad for the public. Titles give people opportunities to become champion and give them a chance to make money. So if there was only one title, and you look at the guys that 30, 40 years ago, they were fighting on a regular basis. It was like, what, fight 8, 10 times a year? The great champions, well, they don't fight like that anymore. They fight 3, 4 times a year. So if there was not 3 or 4 different sanctioning bodies, and say you had 100 guys like myself that were number 1 in the world, and they were waiting around for a title shot, you'd be waiting all day long. You'd be waiting on one belt.
Yeah. Yeah,
but because you have 4 different organizations, you can establish 4 world champions and give guys opportunities to become champions, and then they unify the belt. And what happens the most? So it works out in one way. It works out kind of good, but in another way, sometimes it keeps guys from fighting each other, like Spence or Crawford. 2 different promoters, 2 different belts.
Yeah.
But what if you only have 1 belt, and say Crawford was the champion, and would he be fighting Spence? Would we talk about him and Spence? Or would we be talking about who's mandatory? Number 1, 2, or 3? We don't know that.
Right.
I mean, there's only could be 1 champion, but there's only could be number 1, number 2, number 3 world ranking. So, is it better that you got 3 or 4 different belts, or if you just have 1 belt? We don't know that. I think it's better that you got 4 WBO, WBA, WBC, IBF, 4 different rank champion bodies. I think it's good.
Okay, now let me ask you about this. It has been proposed, like, when we have all of these titles like we have currently, and you have multiple champions as those belt holders, what do you think about, like, every 4 years a unification, just to see, because you figure 10 to 15 years is a career for guys, right? And it's like you get every 4 years or so, you have like a undisputed title or a tournament, like that, so you can have one champion to see who was the best of that period of time or something like that. What do you think about going in that direction?
But then you miss out on great fights. So you may miss out on an Eric Spence and a Crawford fight. We got a unification in 4 years. What happens if Karen Crawford or Spence are long wait for 4 years when something happens?
Okay.
Maybe one get hurt, or maybe one loses, or maybe one retires. Okay. And then you never change. You never get a chance to unify the belt if you wait every 4 years. I think basically it's it's what's on demand. Right now, Crawford and Spence is demand.
Okay.
It's in demand for them 2 to fight. So now it's all about getting the 2 bodies, the 2 promoters, to agree and say, let's make this fight happen because this is what the public wants to see.
Okay.
Who wants to wait 4 years? What happens if one retires in 4 years? What happens if one gets beat in 4 years? A lot of things can happen in 4 years. Sit around waiting. So why sit around wait? Let's make it happen.
Yeah, we recently saw something like that happen when I think it was Jermell Charlo got upset by what's the gentleman's name that upset him
Right,
at
I know exactly what you're talking
154.
about. Well, what happens if you wait till like Floyd and Pacquiao, wait till they both get old? You never see the best of both of them. You didn't see the best of Floyd. Even though he won, he was still great, but you didn't see the best of Pacquiao, who lost.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I was just trying to, put it out there because there have been some talk in the community, like people trying to figure out ways to kind of like do away with the madness of so many champs, but we still want to find out who's the best, because currently in today's era, the fighters just don't seem like they want to protect that O. You know, they don't want to lose. And I thought that when you get to the pinnacle of the sport, it becomes, you know, at least you want to test your mettle against the best that are out there.
Well,
and we're not talking about going in haphazardly, you know, just like, you know, if somebody is a champion, you know, champions should kind of mix it up. I mean, we don't want to see like the lowly Cleveland Cavaliers playing, you know, OKC or the Golden State Warriors every night. You know that's going to be a blowout. So you want to see the competitive matches. You want to see quality against quality. There's nothing wrong with having lower level fighters facing off, but you want to see the champions face off too. You want to see the best of the sport.
I think today's fighters have this perception that if I retire undefeated, I can go down as being great. But if you look at life itself, you look at those who reached the height of greatness, where they were in the ring or in the office, it was only their setbacks and their comebacks that helped them become great. It's not having an undefeated record. Having a 0 on your record doesn't mean really shit. Who cares about that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nobody that's ever reached the height of greatness in life that was basically what they went through or their setbacks and the comeback that helped them to establish their greatness, not because they were undefeated with a 0. I mean, with no losses.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's sometimes the defeat and then coming back helps you become great. Whether it's in life or it's in the ring, it's not necessarily, well, I just retire and I'm undefeated. So they look at Floyd because he retired undefeated, then everybody thinks they have to have that 0 in their record. Not necessarily. Look at all the great fighters in the past. You can't name one of them that was considered great. They lost once, twice, or 2, 3, 4 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that doesn't really, you know, just because you retire undefeated doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah. So there's another thing that kind of crosses sometimes well, it happens early on in the amateurs, and then it can later happen if you have a pro career that extends over a duration. You kind of find yourself running across familiar faces. Tell us a little bit about what it's like when you found yourself having to face off against your buddy Montel. What was that like? Because I know you guys are good friends, and it's like you ended up having to fight each other.
Well, it's almost like two enemies that are business partners, and they realize when they're trying to accomplish something and make money and be successful in business, they may dislike one another. They may not agree, but they come down and sit down and they compromise and they work out things to benefit both parties. And they're saying, well, in boxing, you can be friends and still maintain a friendship after the fight is over, but until then, you gotta do what you gotta do. Step your friendship to the side and compete. And Montel won, and we're still friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. No one will stop being friends and losing a fight. It wasn't like it was a street fight. It ain't like we were in the streets of Chicago, 42nd and Princeton, and got to a street fight in a brawl. You know, then that's different. Boxing's competition. You compete, you lost, you win. It is what it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Did you had a chance to be around Eddie Futch during those last years, right?
Yep.
What tell us, Derrick, and we've got a few people in my listening into on my live chat here now, and I just want to say for anyone out there that's just joining us, I have Derrick Royalty Harmon here. He's from Chicago in Evanston, Illinois, and he's a former light heavyweight and cruiser champion. And he's here live with me. He's a good friend, and he decided to take a moment out of his busy schedule and give a little support to the STORMYBMAN channel and give a shout out to the boxing community, because people want to know what it's like from people on the inside. And as we're chopping it up, I will have some more questions for Derrick, but if any of you have a couple of questions, please post them in the chat now. And before he gets off, Derrick might be able to answer a couple of questions from you guys. I'm going to take a quick moment, Derrick, and ask you about something that's not boxing, but it's a kind of interesting thing. The movie Shiner. How did that come about, bro?
Well, that's Michael Caine and Mark Lando. So I used to hang out in L.A. at the Mondrian Hotel, and I was approached by a scout who was looking for someone to come to England to do a movie. And so, when the guy walked over to me with an accent and kind of questioned what I was doing, I just looked at him like it was kind of weird. And he told me what he was doing. He was out scouting, looking for an athlete to play a role in an upcoming movie over in England called The Shiner, starring Michael Caine and Martin Lando. So I gave him my information. A couple weeks later, I had a contract, and then I was flying first class to England to do a movie. So,
All right.
I was hoping to become the next Denzel, but it didn't work out. So, it's okay though. I'm good.
What was that like, man? It's like, is it like they say, it's like long days of waiting around for a lot of nothing?
Long days, man. Get up at 6 in the morning, sit around the set for 4 or 5 hours, waiting to do a scene that you may do over and over and over and over again, 100 different angles and 100 different times. So you gotta have patience. You gotta be a person with patience to really be a great actor.
How was Michael Caine?
He was a funny guy, man. He's pretty funny,
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to dinner with him. He had a restaurant there off Piccadilly in London. So I had an opportunity to sit with him a couple times and eat dinner with him and Martin Lando and a couple of the other people from the set. So it was pretty cool. It was fun, man. It was a great experience. Good time.
That's awesome, man. As you see, I've done my little research a little bit, I could try to get you to talk about those good things. Who are you, would you say, who are your personal influences in the sport? People that inspired you and also that you may have met along your travels during your career as a fighter that gave you that sense of, hey, not only can I do this, but also help, kind of point you in a certain direction for your success. Because I will say that you were successful in your career. You were quite successful.
Well, thank you. But you got to remember, success is always intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone that I ran across, everyone that I met, that was either successful or unsuccessful, kind of gets you to where you need to be. You can either follow the road of success or the ones that are unsuccessful. So everybody plays a part in it. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really a particular person that really kind of said, okay, this is the way to go. It was everyone. Those who were successful and those who were not successful, it was basically the choice of which direction I wanted to go.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
And back to Eddie Futch for one moment. What was that like, that experience of working with that gentleman? Because as we are in the current era and they talk about coaching, I always had a tremendous amount of respect for what he did and the people that he worked with. And even going back to being a person that was, back there with Joe Louis, it must have been an amazing experience. And what would you say that you were able to take away from that experience of being around such a revered coach?
Well, people really don't look at how great you were or what you accomplished until you've gone. At that particular time, being around Eddie Futch, was in the early 90s. So, it really wasn't a big deal until later on, like today, we talk about the great trainers. You look at a guy like Eddie Futch and him and all the other great trainers came along, and then you think about their accomplishments and who they trained and what they did, and you just realize how good they were. Just getting you ready for a championship fight and setting out a strategy and having the confidence in them that they're going to get you to the championship. So yeah, Eddie Futch was a great trainer. It was him and Dale Torrance and Hedgeman Lewis. They were training in. They had Montel. They had Riddick Bowe. They had Mike McCallum. They had quite a few guys, man. They were working with. So just to be among great trainers and great fighters was kind of cool.
Man, Mike McCallum, what a fighter, man. A lot of people avoided that gentleman, even in that era that he was, at his youth. It was like nobody want any parts of him. And I was speaking with a close associate of mine recently, and he was letting it be known that he thought he saw a little bit of Mike McCallum in Terrence Crawford, and I was like, that's fascinating that he would say that, because there is, of course, Crawford is a smaller man, but what he
Right.
was saying was like a lot of what McCallum had. He
Right.
could kind of see Crawford maybe possessing some of that capability. And I
Right.
was like,
Right.
it's definitely something of throwback there, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I see Terrence Crawford's a great fighter. As you know, I was just with him when he defeated Amir Khan Saturday night down at MSG.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. I mean, good person. Him and Bomad, great team. Smart guy. I take my hat off to him. He's a champion that today's youth should really look up to and kind of follow his format. Not just becoming champion, but a great father and a great man. So he's coming along pretty good though. But Mike McCallum, great, great, bad dude, man. Good fighter. You can learn a lot from him.
Yes, outstanding.
Yeah.
And is he doing training himself now? Is he
Yeah,
training
last time
guys?
I saw Mike McCallum, I believe he was training Jesse Vargas. I don't think he's training him anymore. But yeah, he's in the gym. I see him training some champions and former world champions.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. So your career pretty much wrapped up. I think you said in 2008, right?
Yeah, I
And
retired 2008.
okay,
I looked at it as a business. There wasn't no upside to it. I was too big for light heavy, too small for cruiserweight. So, and then I was 38 years of age. So when I'm going to compete with guys in their 20s, or in their prime, trying to get back to where I was, I figured it's a good time for me to hang it up. Where I can speak well, I can think well, take my years and move forward, and take what I have left and move forward. And instead of taking what I have and move backwards and try to accomplish something that I had already did and got to, whatever the case may be. So yeah, it was fun. It was good.
so how did you end up working with Top Rank?
I was part of a gym that I had in Vegas over in Summerlin, and there was a lady that used to come to the gym, and she was Bob's personal trainer. And when she got ready to move, she asked me would I take over, and basically, it was just going out, talking to him, and walking with him, and getting him keeping his body up to par. And that's where I started off at. One thing led to another.
Mm, okay, and
Yeah.
as I had spoken with you most recently, I would say that Derrick is a liaison to Bob Arum and Top Rank. For those of you out there who feel ain't no brothers working for Top Rank and all of that and everything, Mister,
Man, I get tired of hearing that. They always say, "Oh, Bob is, he's white and he don't like black fighters." It's such a crock of shit. It's he's been in business for 52 years, so you can't name one fighter today, black fighter, or 30 years ago that Bob Arum didn't promote. He's a businessman. What do he give a shit about color for?
yeah, you care about that green, right, Derrick?
Well, that's what we're in the business for. We're in the business of making money and being successful, and just like a football player, just like a coach or a team, they want to build success, and so you can't limit success based on color. So if I want to have a successful business or run a successful business, and I want to have the best people or the best players or the best fighters, whatever it may be, I'm going to be willing to accept and deal with people that come along in all shapes, sizes, and colors. So I don't know how that myth or that perception got out there that Bob doesn't like black fighters. The clock of crap. He never promoted me, but here I am working for him. I travel with him. Been all over the world with him. So I see how he treats me. Not me, but I just see how he treats people in general. So that's not true at all. So yeah, I don't even pay attention to that anymore. I used to try and defend it, but I just realized people are going to they were going to say what they want to say anyway, and so it is what it is. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Derrick. One of the things I want to admit openly is that I thought I would throw that out there to allow you to speak on it, because there is this belief out there that like he doesn't even have black folks working for him or whatever. And
Okay,
that
so name one fighter. Name one fighter 20 years ago.
20 years ago, black fighter, 20 years
Name a
ago,
superstar. 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Name one.
40 years ago, Tommy Hearns.
Okay.
Ray Leonard.
Ray Leonard. Bob had a piece of them. Name one. Name someone recently.
Someone recently, black fighter.
Name a recent champion that's a superstar. Terrence Crawford, Timothy Bradley. He had Floyd Mayweather first 30 fights.
Yeah.
So when people say, Bob don't want black fighters, if you look at the black fighters that has become a household name, at some point in time, how do you think they became a household name? Bob Arum. Yeah, Bob Arum, yeah, Don King. Don King was good at taking you and I and making the world believe that it's going to be the best fight in the world. That's what he specialized in. Bob Arum took a fighter like you and myself and created a household name. So those who had household names, either today or 30 years ago, some point in time, they went through Top Rank and Bob created them.
I see what you're saying there. And, with all due respect.
And so when you talk about Hall of Famer promoters, is he not a Hall of Famer promoter?
Absolutely,
he's considered a Hall of Famer promoter. Well, the only way you can get there is by promoting the best. And can you not say that black fighters have been one of the greatest markets or Hispanics to boxing?
Absolutely.
So how would he reach Hall of Fame without blacks, Hispanics, or any race of people? Can't become a Hall of Fame promoter by promoting a particular race or a particular whatever. No, you have to have the best fighters to become a Hall of Famer.
Understood.
So if people really sit down and look at paper and take a list of people that he promoted.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, you would never say that.
Yeah.
And then if today, if you really want to be a great fighter and you really want to become a household name, Top Rank has the best format out of any promotion company. We got ESPN. You can watch ESPN at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
You can be going to Walmart watching ESPN. You can go to the gas station where they have TVs and watch ESPN. So if you really want to become a household name, Top Rank has the best format right now, which is ESPN, to show your skills.
Okay, I do have a question based on what you just said there, and I think I might have the voice of the people when I ask this particular question. For a promotion coming off of like what we just had this past weekend with Crawford versus Khan, could you give us a little insight into why we as a public felt like we didn't see enough of a promotion for that fight? Like there weren't like a lot of advertisements or commercials or whatever until like we just got right up to the few days before the fight. And usually like a month out or something, like for a rival promotional group like a PBC or something, they start airing those commercials on a Saturday night or something on Fox or whatever, or when they have another game. Is there a particular reason why Top Rank and ESPN, even though they're with Disney and everything, that they just haven't marketed the fighters a little more? Because especially with Crawford being like considered the pound for pound fighter in the world, I just want to have your opinion on that.
Well, if you know anything about marketing, most people, you wouldn't market a month out anyway, because then you're just spending money, and most people are going to forget anyway. But you have to look at the success of numbers when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
So numbers mean everything. So I'm not for sure what PBC do as far as numbers, but I know Top Rank's numbers when it comes to the pay-per-view fights and the fights that are doing, the numbers are great.
Okay.
So whether it's a week out or 2 weeks out, people are more likely to remember, oh, the fight is next week. If I see it a week from now or a week beforehand, if I see the fight and you start marketing a month out, more likely you're going to forget.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I do understand.
If I give you a doctor's appointment a month from now, I'm more likely would have to remind you because you would forget, right?
Yeah.
I would have to remind you 2 weeks prior, Brian, you have a doctor's appointment, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So why not just remind you that there's a fight 2 weeks out instead of a month out? I'm about to tell you anyway. So now you have me spending money a month prior to a fight that you're going to forget that I got to turn around and pay more money to remind you anyway to market. So why not just market 2 weeks out?
Okay.
But they do take big fights. They show it. I'm sure they show it a little here, a little there. Then as time gets close by, they'll start picking it up, ramping up the promotion of marketing or showing each fight.
Okay.
You know, 2 weeks prior, I'm sure they'll ramp it up and do more marketing. But a month out, they may do very little. So I'm not for sure. I'm just speculating. So I can't take my word. I'm just I don't know anything about that. I don't have any involvement with the marketing. I'm just assuming.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate that, whatever it is that you have to offer, because you're working much closer to the source than any of us who can only just speculate, from our personal small perspective. So,
right.
I appreciate that. Now, there is something else that I would like to ask that maybe you can answer this, and maybe it's something that again is like toward the voice of the people, like with the televised programming, and here we're talking about boxing and the top ranked promotions and programming. Why is it seeming like that? And I guess, and this is not just me. I'm trying to speak for an audience here. Why is it seeming like that the announcing teams are not very versed at being honest all the time when they're doing a show? Like if there's a particular fighter on a particular night, let's just use Lomachenko as for example, and they speak of the guy like, oh, he's the best we've ever seen and this and that, but it's not like, with respect to the history of boxing, it's like disrespect taken publicly to the history of boxing when you've seen like other greats of the past or whatever. And it's like, oh, he's a new talent. But why just be so dismissive of anyone else who was before him? And it's like they seem to do that at every beck and call when they have a live show and they're on the air. And I think it's kind of irresponsible.
I can't talk about how great a man was 30 years ago that I didn't see. I can only speak of what I see in front of me and what I've seen in the period of time that I've been doing things.
Okay.
So in this era and this time and what's going on now, what they see, I think they're more speaking about perhaps now. You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
it's like any other sport.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. I just kind of want to. I want to lead you into answering it totally like this. So don't you think, like, if they're speaking of what they've seen of today, that they should actually say that, or to be more responsible in their reflection? Because if like me interviewing you today, I give honor to the career you've had, and I'm not dismissive of it. I'm not acting like, oh, that didn't happen or that was so long ago, you're not relevant. You're a person that has transferred from being a participant in the sport where you were actually physically involved to now you're on a business aspect of it, which is a nice transition because a lot of people don't get a chance to do that. Like I said, and like you said, with their faculties in order and everything like that, and to be able to be a face along with a, 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 a business that when people that are not in the know say, oh, it ain't no brothers out there or whatever, but you are out there. So
Right.
so when they're on television and they're speaking like that, don't you think just like a little bit of coaching up to those guys would help to the degree of saying, well, guys, when you want to say something like that, speak of the present moment. Say, hey, in my years of watching, I haven't seen blah blah blah. You know, so it's like it doesn't be so disrespectful for others who have brought their blood, sweat, and tears for our entertainment.
So, quick question though. But quick question: which fighter are you saying that they talk about like that?
Well, again,
You
let's
said
just
Lomachenko, right?
well with Lomachenko, there was there was a
Take Lomachenko. I mean, if you look back into history, I mean, what fighter did you see fight like Lomachenko do? I mean, we got guys that come along with Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, and guys like that were speed, great boxers, whatever, and guys with power that knock you out. But when have you seen a guy with that particular style? You haven't. I haven't. I mean, I used to think Pernell Whitaker was the shit. But man, now you look at Lomachenko, it's like, wow. Man, this dude, his movement is just unbelievable. You know? I mean, Pernell was my favorite fighter. He'd stand right in front of you and hit you and never get touched. This guy here, it's like he anticipates your moves. It's crazy. So, when they speak of him like that, yeah, I can understand why they're saying that. I can't look back 40 years ago and see a fighter that moves and do things that Lomachenko do. But we've seen Sugar Ray Leonard before. We've seen the Floyd Mayweathers before. We've seen the Mike Tysons before. But we've never seen the particular style like Lomachenko. Terrence Crawford reminds you of Mike McCallum, you said. Reminds you a little bit of Sugar Ray Leonard. Who do Lomachenko remind you of? Go back way into history. You can go back to the beginning of boxing. Who did he remind you of?
Well, you know me. If you give me a moment, I could come up with somebody, but I wasn't trying to go there like that because I am somewhat of a historian. I would come up with somebody,
and
but
I know you are. So if you was able to come up with somebody off the top of your head, you would have. But you can't because if you look at his movement and things that he do, it's crazy.
Yeah, but it's also I would equate that also, Derek, with there are not a lot of guys who are totally dedicated today. So even guys who have talent, like a Lomachenko, there's definitely talent there, and I would not ever try to discredit that. But I will discredit the work ethic of a lot of people who are participating. One of the reasons why Floyd was able to sustain and maintain to his up to his becoming a 40-year-old man was that even though people say, oh, Floyd is great, this and that, but Floyd worked hella hard in that gym, and he really did, and he zeroed in where a lot of guys, they saw his flash and him carrying around the cash and everything, but they weren't working as hard as he was in the gym. And some men might have even had athletic physical attributes and talents that may have been better than Floyd, but they didn't have the success he had because of that lack of the same dedication and focus.
So go back to what I was saying. Success is always intentional. No doctor sets out to be a doctor. No doctor becomes a doctor and says, I just have to be a physician. It has to be a brain surgeon, or no attorney just sets out and say, I just looked up to become an attorney. No, they plan that way. Success is intentional. So if you F up and you don't become your best, that was intentional as well. Floyd set out to be the best. He said he was the best. He trained like the best. He fought like the best. And what did he become? It was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be successful, people have a couple of things in common. Number one, they're disciplined in their thinkers and they're doing, and they're consistent. And Floyd was consistent in the ring and in training. He was consistent, and that's why he is who he is.
Absolutely.
So that's that.
I got you, brother. I got you. um, so yeah, you know, so what would you say? What would you say is your place in the area of fitness and health with boxing? Because you said you had a gym, right? You have a
No,
facility.
I was a part of Jackie Robinson used to play basketball back in the days of won the ring with the Sonics. Him and I had a gym on Summerlin, Vegas, and so that's what I did after I retired from boxing. You know, taught classes, became a personal trainer, just trying to figure out what to do next. Did a couple of different things, and it all involves customer service, but it all leads up to what I'm doing now with Top Rank. Basically, you know, when we talk about success, I'm a life coach.
Okay.
So well as work with Top Rank and work with the fighters, I want to increase people's value in themselves. Because no matter what you are, whether you're a boxer or whatever you want to become, it has to be intentional, and you have to have discipline, and you have to be consistent.
Yes.
And so, you know, that's the role I play now. Now that I know that my talent is over with, because the talent is just a talent. You know, at some point in time, whether you're a great basketball player, a great football player, or a great boxer, that's a talent that's going to come to the end like a job will at the age of 65. But when you have a gift can last a lifetime. I'll tell people all the time, Father Aaron has a gift of promoting. That's why his gift doesn't limit him to people of color. His gift excels all above that. His gift he can do it till he's 95 years old or to 100 whenever he decides to stop. What I'm doing, the role that I'm playing now, is I'm using my gift. I want to create value in people who don't think they have value, or people who think they're just a B-side fighter. No, let's increase your value, increase your thinking, increase your belief system, so we can take you to the A side.
Got it. Got it. So, in the Top Rank family, aside from the names that we know, you know, of course, like Lomo, and then we've got Crawford and the young guy, Shakur Stevenson, looks like he's a up and comer. Who would you say that the public need to be on the lookout for? Who do you see that's going to be someone that can kind of carry their weight in the ensuing years coming up?
Well, Shakur Stevenson, you know, you know, young kid, young kid, young kid. You know, he's young. He's got a great smile, great personality. You always see him smiling. You know, he's just a fun kid. I think he's going to become a great champion. He's going to be very marketable. You know, you can have a kid like Shakur Stevenson and not market him right wouldn't do any good. But because he is marketable, because he is a great kid, because he can fight, I think he's the kid to look out for. And you know, Top Rank gonna do what they're supposed to do, and all he got to do is what he's supposed to do. You know.
Well, I would like to give him a big compliment on his performance from Saturday night, because he was in there with a veteran title challenger, former veteran title challenger, and the guy was bringing some rough and tough stuff to him that he could only learn under the lights, and he handled it very well. He handled it very well, and I'd rather see young fighters that are young like that growing in fights like that than just getting easy knockouts. You know, because he's going to take that experience of that match. The guy was stepping on his foot. He was kind of throwing elbows. He was coming in with his head. He was doing a little bit of everything, you know, and Shakur handled it. He handled it well and didn't get rattled, didn't get frustrated. And I have to compliment that, because in today's era, we're actually seeing young fighters who are not necessarily being matched where they face that type of opposition.
And that's great on Shakur's side, because all that was the ingredients that he needs to become a champion.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
All that, he needs all that. That's the ingredients. That's the ingredients of when you're making something great and you want something to come out with a piece of cake or a great dish. You need great ingredients. So, in order for Shakur to become champion, he needs all that. That's part of the ingredients that he needs to become a champion. So it's good that he saw that. And so I was sitting there watching the fight, and I noticed that the kid's experience was stronger physically, was using all the tricks and all the different things that he needs to distract Shakur. But what does Shakur do? He stayed focused, he stayed disciplined, and he stayed consistent. What was he consistent with? His jab, his foot movement, his head movement, and his boxing ability. And so he came out victorious. But all that stuff that the opponent was doing was helping secure for the long term down the road to become champion. Because now he has experience with this particular guy. That kind of, to me, gave him a good fight. I mean, I was shocked too. I was, wow, Shakur is really handling focus, keeping his jab, keeping his distance. Did a great job, man. Real good job.
And he got those rounds in. He got those rounds in on a big stage at the Garden. It's like that was very impressive for anyone out there that wants to talk about some of the young prospects of today, what he faced on that night and everything that was in front of him. It shows that he's got something. He's got a little moxie in him, and that's going to carry him. But even more, I think having those veterans around him like Andre Ward and yourself and Tim Bradley and Crawford, it's going to help him tremendously.
Yep, I think so too, man. His grandfather, so yeah, he got good people around. But not only that, man, and I don't say this because I work for him. He had the best promotion team.
Mm-hmm.
I think. When I look at promoters, promotion companies, I don't say this because I just work for Top Rank. I really do believe that Top Rank is by far the best promotion out there. Got the best format. And so when you're on the road and you're in the box and you meet people that do business with other promoters, and I hear it all the time. Top Rank they got their stuff together. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, they know what they're doing. You can tell they're professionals. You can tell they've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think all that helps out.
All right.
It gives the fighter an easy job to do. All they got to do is go out and perform.
Great. So outside of Shakur, is there anyone else in the Top Rank stable that we should be eyeing and keeping an eye out for? Because there's some nice young talent out there, and I'm always excited to see what the Cubs are doing. Those Cubs got to grow up into Bears, so we want to see what they bring.
Well, we got so many, man. It's kind of hard for me to name them.
Well, let's put it like this then, because I'm not trying to put the pressure on. Like, what do you have coming up in the next month or two? Something that might be hot that we might want to be looking forward to.
Well, we got a card that's coming up in Stockton, California, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great card.
This month or next month?
The May 4th.
May 4th. Okay. All right.
We do 3 shows. We do approximately anywhere from 2 to 3 shows a month.
Okay.
On ESPN.
Okay.
So
I wasn't counting, but I didn't realize it was that often. I wasn't really counting. So
right. Yeah.
Sometimes on my channel when I'm covering the fights and I'm looking at the fighters and the matchups, I kind of put the promotions behind. Because I'm not focusing on who's promoting. I'm focusing on the fighters. So I don't mean to sound ill-informed when I say that, but it's like that's where my focus is sometimes when I I'm doing my videos and everything covering the fighters and the fights, because I get down and break down matchups and styles and stuff like that. And sometimes I leave that promotion in, but I will be a little more mindful about that. And I just wanted to say that because I didn't want to come across, like I said, ill-informed. It's just that I know that sometimes when people get to talking about the promotional groups, it allows them to put a wall up, you know, because they might like this or not like that. But it's the fighters. It's the reason that I'm into the sport is because of the fighters, you know, boxing.
Of course, of course. Same here. The reason why I'm still involved in the sport, it wasn't because of promotion, it was because of the sport itself. You know,
yes,
is what I did for so long. Is what I like. So I look for the new talent. I look for the next coming up and champion. You know, so you know, I understand. Yeah, same here. Yep.
I got it. So, well, I'm not going to take any more of your time, Derrick. I really appreciate this time that you have taken out with me to be on the channel, and you know, much respect to everything that you're doing out there. This will be uploaded on the STORMYBMAN channel so everyone can take a listen, and please feel free to look through some of my other material and content because it's been out there since January. We got started here, and I want to say shout out to the live chat, everyone that was out there. There's some other guys from the boxing community that'll have some shows coming on in the next hour or two. So I know the viewers are kind of spread out right now. I don't usually do a live until Friday nights, but this was a special opportunity to chop it up with you. And I wanted to make sure I got that in. So I really appreciate you taking your time out with me, brother.
Hey, well, you know, we know each other for a long time, man. So for you to come out with this, you know, I'm happy for you. Like I said, I wish you much success in this. And, you know, just over the years of talking, I know you know a lot about boxing. I mean, believe me, you know a lot about boxing. You know, especially when it comes to fighters and styles and different abilities that fighters have. So it's always been an enjoyment to be able to talk to you or talk to someone, especially you, that, you know, some people, when you talk to them about boxing, they just ignorant, they don't know. But it's always a pleasure talking to you when it comes to boxing. So, you know, it's great. I wish you much success in this, man.
Thank you so much. Hey, and since you said that, I want to take a moment to walk down memory lane for something, because I have talked to this with a couple of personal colleagues, but I wanted to take a moment to reflect back on something that you did for me that gave me a wonderful feeling. When you got the Roy Jones fight, okay, you gave me a call and you said, "Hey, Brian, I got the Jones fight." And you said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Oh man, that's great and everything." And he was like, you asked me, you said, "Okay, so give me some breakdown. What should I be looking out for?" Do you remember you asking me that?
Yep.
And I told you, I said, well, one of the things right off the bat that I know Roy likes to do is he likes to keep that left hand extended. And I said, when he does that, because he's so fast, you know, and this was during Roy's heyday, of course, when you challenged him. So it wasn't like he had faded. He was still in the midst of all of that fighter of the 90s kind of stuff going on. And I told you, I said, that arm is like a bridge. And I said, all you got to do is, if you can touch that arm, hit him on that arm. Keep hitting him on that arm. I said, if you slap it, bat it, punch it, whatever. And what will happen, because he used to like to throw the check hook because he didn't jab. And I said, you keep hitting that arm, and after a couple of rounds, he going to drop that arm low because he going to be tired of you hitting it. And I said, as soon as he dropped the arm low, you'll be able to get that much closer to him. And then you can touch him. And then what happened that you didn't know about, but if you've watched your fight, you know, on tapes or whatever, as the fifth round, I think it was either round 5 or 6, it came around and he was doing that and you were hitting him on that arm. And George Foreman, who was doing ringside commentary, said,
He said, "You don't see that. That's old school."
Yeah.
I remember.
He sure
I
did.
remember. Yeah. George Foreman said, "Oh, you don't see that these days. That's old school. Hit a fighter in the arm like that."
He said that, and you know what? I felt vindicated, man, because at least I was able to give you a tidbit of information or something to do tactical wise. And here it is. You had two-time heavyweight George Foreman, who had recently won that title, you know, from Michael Moore, and he's on there talking, saying the same thing. And it was like, man, that felt like vindication, you know, right there on live TV. I just wanted to say, man, that was one of my most happiest moments. It's like I could help you.
That's funny, man. I remember that, man. Yep, I remember that.
Yeah,
yep, I remember. So yeah, Roy was, you know, listen, that's the only fight that I really regret. I mean, I don't regret because at that time he was his prime. At that time, you know, hey, he was the best. You know, so yeah, you know, he's a good guy though, man. I see him once in a while. We sit and chat. I see all those guys, man.
Yeah,
we sit and talk. You know, and so yeah, it's cool, man. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good to look back at the sport now, and you know, you look at things different. You could have done things different, but hey, it's all okay, man. It's all good.
Hey, man. Well, you always represented yourself well in there, man. And like I said, you always got that respect here, man. Because I know,
and I'm looking to advise, manage the new best thing. I got an opportunity because I work here with Top Rank to do a lot of different things. So, you know, any of those who listen and know of great fighters and they're at 10 and 12 and 0 without any managers, without any promotional contract, look me up on Facebook, Derrick. Last name is Harmon. Send me a message, and there's some way I can help you to increase your boxing, give you more value, help you become champion, help you become connect with the right people in boxing. Then allow me to do so.
Awesome, awesome. So you want to give that to you one more time? Your Facebook, Derrick, where they can follow you.
Derrick Harmon. You see Derrick Harmon. I'm up there with, you know, I'm a boxer, so that's my profile picture. DERRICK Harmon, HARMON on Facebook. Send me a message if I can help you, you know, in any kind of way, and just send me a message. I'm here. We're always looking for great talent. We got the format to, you know, put it out there. So, you know, I'm available.
All right, that's what's up, man. That is what's up. So with that, we're gonna be signing off here. We have just heard from royalty Derrick Harmon, former light heavyweight and cruiserweight champ, and he came in to chop it up specially this evening with the listeners of the STORMYBMAN channel. And for everyone who was out there to listen live, you were in for a treat. I know this wasn't planned, but I just wanted to let you all know that this is one of the type of things that STORMYBMAN is going to be doing for you, bringing this type of content with people who are associated with the sport, who are willing to come and share with you and have that great experience, because without the fans, they couldn't have the fighters. So it's like, you know, that's what we're doing here on the STORMYBMAN channel. And coming from Mr. Harmon and myself, I want to say good night to everyone, and everyone have a safe and wonderful evening. This is STORMYBMAN signing off. I want to say peace. Thanks, Derrick. All right. Peace, brother.